We are now going to start with the statements of candidacy for our District 65 board. And I'll just give you a quick heads up. There is no District 115 seats open today. It's a little nuanced, and I'm going to ask Jill Rosa of our team to provide that explanation after we conclude with this board and while you're in the voting process. So for those of you wondering why we have no Lake Forest High School board candidates, that will be explained in the course of the evening tonight, okay? So we will again start in the order as they appear on the ballot. So I will ask Lane Bennett to please lead us off with her statement.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lane Bennett. My family and I were fortunate to move to Lake Bluff in 2011 on a recommendation from a Lake Forest family. They said, Lane, Lake Bluff is a quaint village hidden in the North Shore where all the young, fun families move to. And here's the kicker, they have the best schools. Howard and I said to each other, we have 3 young kids who will eventually attend public school. Let's do this. Fast forward to today, our 3 kids are now tweens. Lake Bluff is still a unique village. However, our schools are not performing in testing as well as they were previously. It would be disingenuous of me to sit here and before this community, my friends, my family, and not address the most pressing issue that is facing Lake Bluff District 65, which is the recently released ISB test scores. 6 out of 10 Lake Bluff middle schoolers cannot read at grade level. 6 out of 10 Lake Bluff middle schoolers are not proficient in math. Half of Lake Bluff elementary schoolers are not performing at grade level. I had 6 middle schoolers in my car this afternoon. It stuck a dagger in my heart looking in the rearview mirror, knowing that they are failing. Our children are failing. We are failing our children. I'm running for Lake Bluff District 65 School Board in order to address this crisis and to put a renewed emphasis on academic achievement for our 863 students. I look forward to working with administration, faculty, community, and school board members on 3 pressing issues. A strategic plan that will begin in 2023.
Sorry.
I'll get back.
Okay. Next we'll hear from J. Scott Birmingham.
You can just call me Scott. Good evening. My name's Scott Birmingham. I'm a longtime resident of Lake Bluff. Long ago, I was on a canoeing trip. This is probably a little better, sorry. On a canoeing trip and had completed a lesson, and we'd had a fabulous experience, after which I asked our instructor how he'd become an accomplished teacher. His response was a life lesson. He told me, you need 3 conditions to be a good teacher. First, the learning environment must be safe. If it's not safe, the student will feel too scared to learn. Second, the lesson must be fun and engaging. If it's not, the student will have no desire to continue to learn. And third, you must listen carefully and respond in a structured and engaging manner. Our district is fabulous. Our community, police, school officials, and in cooperation with parents provide a safe learning environment. Our students are engaged and stimulated. I see this through conversations and what I hear from our 2 grandchildren, Bella, a kindergartner, and Shami, a 2nd grader in our district. At the same time, we face challenges. Some of these challenges are areas where I have developed expertise and to which I'd like to contribute. First, though tax dollar contributions provide our district with a sound financial base, we are faced with high inflation, which is lessening the value of what we must manage to improve our educational offerings. My experience as an executive vice president of a private equity firm, coupled with 16 years as a graduate school administrator, provide me with skills that can help district navigate the financial challenges we face. Second, the district needs to create a new strategic vision and long-term plan for our district's continued health and growth. During and following my career in education, I facilitated strategic plans for a number of...
Time. Next we'll hear from Laura Breakstone. Laura, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Laura Breakstone. I have been a Lake Bluff resident for almost 10 years. We have two boys, a first grader and fifth grader. I just retired this summer, and I have over 20 years of HR experience, and my husband said, please take 1 year off before you do something wild like join the school board. So it's been 6 months. Here I am. Sorry, honey. I have a lot of skills that I feel that I would bring to the board. I want to say I think the board has done an amazing job during unprecedented times. I care so much about our community, our school, our teachers, our administrators. They have done so much. I know there are gaps in learning, and I know we are all working on getting caught up, and I think we are experiencing teacher shortages. There are problems to solve, but I love this community, and I think that we can work through these problems together, and I want to work with the current board to do that. I think Andy and Ann have done an amazing job and been level-headed and calm during very tumultuous times. I've lived all over the country. I have never lived anywhere like Lake Bluff. It is unique, it is special, and I love being here, and I want to give back to this community.
Thanks, Laura. Good evening. My name is Andy Duran. I'm currently in my first term on the District 65 Board of Education. As a vote of confidence from my colleagues, last spring I was elected president of the board. I've been a committed and productive board member, serving this community well without a political agenda. I've been entrusted in leading our community and board through difficult and controversial discussions related to equity, masking, and school safety. I love this community and our kids. That is my only platform and my only agenda. I spent my entire career, most of it right here, serving kids and families. For the past 10 years, I've been the CEO of LEAD, which under my leadership has exploded across the country and serves hundreds of schools and communities all over the U.S. I bring a unique perspective to our board in that I'm routinely in classrooms with students and in meetings with school admins. I've seen what works and what doesn't, and have brought that back to our community when and where appropriate. I'm the founder and developer of a life-saving mental health support platform called Text for Help that is available to millions of students nationwide. It has provided prevention, intervention, and active rescues in crisis situations related to suicide, overdose, and gun violence, including here. I'm also the founder of Camp Hope, a summer camp for children and teens with disabilities that has run every summer since I founded it back in 2005. I also have a variety of ministry-based experience working with youth in both the inner city and the suburbs to combat social justice issues such as hunger, homelessness, and violence. My whole life has been about service, and that's exactly how I've approached my time on our Board of Ed. I'm a professional, organized, detailed, and polished leader who has been asked to facilitate meetings and events all over the country, from small groups in small towns to large assemblies at the U.S. Capitol, and everything in between. I routinely speak in front of hundreds of people, and am in my comfort zone in a room full of change makers with an agenda in hand. I'm a consensus builder, and have done that on our board. The number one qualification, I think, of being a productive member of the Board of Ed is having already done it. I've done it in a very tumultuous time to do it. Couple that experience with my unique background and skill set, and I believe I'm the person you want on this board for the next 4 years. To my friends, family, and supporters in the room tonight, thank you for being here. To all of you in the room, I ask for your vote so that we can continue the great work that's been started by our superintendent and admins to support excellence in education, enthusiasm for life every day. Thank you.
And lastly, Ann Hill.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Hill. I'm very happy to be here tonight. I'm really happy to be here with this panel, so thank you all for your interest. Last time I did this, I ran 4 years ago, and it was uncontested. And while that was convenient and nice, it's actually really nice that more people are wanting to get involved and that there's so many people interested in being a part of government in our community. So I think that's fantastic. A little bit about me. I've lived in Lake Bluff since 2013. My husband and I moved here then with our 3 young children. Now I have one here at LBES, one at the middle school, and one at the high school. And we have loved our experience in the schools and in Lake Bluff. I did a lot to volunteer in the schools, PTO, and whatnot until I ran for school board and was elected in 2019. So now I'm running for the second term, and I have found that I'm really, really passionate about this. I love being involved in our schools. I love learning everything that it takes to keep them up and running. I agree with a lot that has been said here already, that there are some academic achievement gaps to close, that we must maintain fun, engaging lessons, that we have strategic planning to do. All of that I would like to continue to work on, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
We will move on to your questions and their answers. First one, and again, we'll use the same order. Each of you will at least have a chance to begin one, and depending on the time, the pile's not quite as thick as the park board question, so maybe we'll get through a few more. The first of which is, can you explain how you handled the masking stance at school? And as a follow-on, do you have a history of working well with others to come to common ground?
So the masking policy that was implemented by Lake Bluff Lake Bluff District 65, which was statewide, I was supported. And when the court handed down the case in February that masks were becoming optional, I agreed with that decision, and I thought it would be up to the parents to have a say in what they thought was best for their child. Their learning and the way that they felt, their mental health, and it was the parents' choice to decide. And the district, and I was at that meeting in February, I was the one that made signs that said, let's see your smile. Let those kids smile. And we wanted them to show their smiles again. So, and the district agreed with that and let us go 2 weeks later, and it was a great last couple weeks of school for all the children. I forgot what it was.
Playing well in the sandbox, reaching common ground. But sorry,
Yeah, okay.
I think you.
She does play well in the sandbox with other people.
Okay, we'll start you now, Scott.
I agree with what Lane said. I agree with what the school and the board did with regard to the masking issue. I also agree that it is important that the parents have a say in what's going on with their kids. It's also important for the kids that they have a say, and it's hard to hear the kids and have them hear the teachers if everybody's wearing a mask. So while it was necessary, it was a good policy. When it no longer was necessary, I think it was important that they be able to remove the masks. I'll just finish by saying, for the most part, I do play well in the sandbox. I've been part of negotiating between chairmen of the boards and CEOs for years, long ago, and was able to resolve all but one amicably. So I got everybody else to play well in the sandbox. I think that would mean that I might too.
I was not on the board during masking, but I have to say I think that our schools did a wonderful job. I think that the board did listen to the community. I think it was a very complicated issue, and I think people feel very strongly both ways. And I think that sort of addresses how I feel about working with others. Everyone feels strongly about this issue. Everyone is sort of over talking about this issue. I think we all have to work together. I think we have to use grace and compassion for people who feel differently for whatever reason than we do about masks and everything else. Practice kindness, act responsibly, welcome challenges, show respect.
Thank you. Let me start by saying kids never stop smiling. I was in our school buildings many times during COVID, during masking, and kids did not stop smiling. It's a detriment to our teachers and the work that they did during that time to say that kids stopped smiling. So let me just start with that. Secondly, I think our board handled that really, really well. We listened to the community. Every one of our meetings is transparent. Go back and watch the meetings we did on masking, and you'll see how well we handled that. We led a discussion responsibly. We took information and opinions from people, and we followed the law. It's more complex sometimes than you see on the outside when you're not on the board. We have to follow the law because we're stewards of your money, and we take that very responsibly. So while we handled it very, very well, we came to a great conclusion, I think. We had kids learning all through the process.
Okay, part one, masking. Again, I agree with what everyone has said. It's nice to go last. You don't have to say a lot, I guess. If everyone remembers, and you may not because a lot happened, when we first started school the fall of the pandemic, we actually were trying to start school mask optional. We had put out a survey, we were trying to get people's opinions, and we were trying to start mask optional. The rules changed, we had to follow the rules. Thus, we went to school in masks. And then as soon as we were able to follow the new rules, we did that and gave people their say and hopefully what they wanted. So that was how we tried to handle that, and I think we did a good job. I do play well with others in the sandbox. I think one of my strengths is that I am open-minded. I like to listen to all aspects of a conversation, of an argument, of an opinion, and see how we can work well together. It's the only way that we move forward, and that's how local government's supposed to work.
The next question, which Scott will get the first crack at answering, how will you maintain staffing in these hard times?
We first have to see, I suppose, what the needs are, and I'm not terribly well versed in that, but our superintendent certainly is. And I think that staffing is a very, very difficult issue. Part of that is how are our current faculty performing? What are our needs for improving the faculty? And once we have met those, we then need to work to find out what resources faculty are available to have a pool ready to step in where the needs are seen.
So across the country, we are seeing shortages in in all areas, but teachers especially, and they're leaving the profession for a myriad reason. And we need to find ways to attract new talent, to speak with the teachers and administrators now, see what's working, what's not working, how we can attract the new talent, how we can encourage teacher retention, and how we can encourage volunteers from the community or hiring. It's not just teachers, it's TAs. We need everything across the board, and I think that there are a lot of ways to do this. So I have 30 seconds left. I can't get into it in 30 seconds, but I have ideas.
I think this is a two-pronged issue. Number one is financial. Number two is how do we support our teachers, as Laura just said. Financially, yeah, we're coming on hard times. We're in the middle of an inflationary period. CPI went up by 7%. We can't tax levy 7%, right? So we're already having to be creative with how we manage our finances. Thankfully, we have an amazing CSBO, Jay Kahn, who helps us figure that out and figuring out how we get what we need by being responsible with your taxpayer dollars. We are continuing to look at staffing models and also continuing to investigate new areas of funding such as grants and things like that. So that's something that's always in our head and something we've actually did quite well at during COVID, where we spent way less than other districts and did pretty well financially during that time. Just go back and look. In terms of the second piece of that, we need to support teachers. Students are not okay right now. Teachers are not okay right now across the country. We need to change that. We've done a ton of work on that. Again, 20 seconds is not time to get into it, maybe later tonight. We have done a ton of work to support our teachers. Our retention rate is greater than in most other schools.
So as a school board, our job is not actually to hire teachers. Our job is to make sure that the resources are there for the administration and the staff to hire the teachers. There are many different ways that we can give support, and we are very, very committed to that. Already in the past year, we have had to change offerings for subs and for aides so that we could attract more of them in the district. And it's the same with teachers and all staff. We want to create resources and a welcoming, wonderful environment where they are supported by the community and the rest of the staff. And that's really our role in this.
So in the ISB report that just came out too, it says that our teachers have a 100% proficient rating for District 65. That's great news. And we also have a 90% retention rate. And I know that supporting the teachers is a huge thing, and that's what we all want best, for our teachers to be happy and satisfied. As a former Chicago public school teacher in the inner city, I know how challenging it is. I mean, I had to go and look. I taught on a stage of an auditorium. I had to beg for dry erase markers. I mean, I had no resources. You know, our community is, and these teachers are very fortunate, and we are here to support them, and our children do better when our teachers are happy and our children are happy. And another thing, too, is I think that Lake Bluff has a small class size. That's a really good thing, too, for our teachers. And hopefully, and I was reading through the last month's board minutes, and also was proposed hiring 2 new teachers to make an elementary school to reduce class sizes.
Okay. The question is, please address learning loss and dropping test scores within the district.
I think there has definitely been learning loss due to COVID. And again, this is for a few different reasons. And the board is, our job would be to partner with the school to figure out why this is happening, how we can improve it. I think there are a lot of reasons that this has happened. It's happened across the country. And I look forward to working with the board and the school to address those gaps, because they do exist.
It's a great question, one that we're constantly wrestling with. This is not new, though. This is not a new learning from the latest ISBE, Illinois State Report Card. This has been a long time of achievement gaps, not just here, but in a lot of places, and certainly the pandemic was a huge piece of that. So we've been working on solutions for this well before that ISBE report came out. Just to highlight a few, we've increased SEL support for students and staff. We've hired additional intervention programs for students. We've purchased those. We've hired professional collaboration around student needs. We kept all of our students with IEPs in our buildings when the rest of our students were out. Through Thrive, our equity initiative, we're understanding the underperforming subgroups, and you can't separate that work from student achievement. If we can fix the achievement gaps within our subgroups, we will ultimately fix the achievement gaps with everywhere else. We still have elite schools, as evidenced by this building, in that report being listed as exemplary, and the middle school being listed as commendable. We have exemplary and commendable schools, and I think that's important that we maintain that status.
Ditto. I agree with what Andy just said. We knew coming out of the pandemic that we were going to have gaps in achievement and that was going to have to be addressed. It's everywhere, but our focus is Lake Bluff, right? And we have put a lot of these things that Andy just listed in place already. And we continue to have test scores reported to us, have achievement reported to us, so that, again, we can provide the resources that our administration and our teachers and our schools need to address these achievement gaps.
So at the beginning, I stated that the recent ISB test scores showed that over half of our students are not at grade level for anything. And that's like hard to swallow, but that is the truth. And that is the number one thing that needs to be addressed. You know, rising tides lift all boats. So if we can get this up, if we set some benchmarks in the strategic plan that's coming out, and we just give year after year, just little increases, it will, you know, the bar raises, everyone will raise. It's contagious. We're part for our SEL students, our low-income students. We're part of True North, which provides special education, additional services. It provides training to teachers. So yeah, we have a lot of the resources, and it will all fall in place. We just need to give it time. We will get back up there, where we all want what's best for our children to do well and be successful.
COVID clearly affected the learning. I saw it in our two grandchildren, and it's hard to learn from home when you have to pay attention to a screen, etc. We have excellent teachers. We have an excellent school. If we help those people to improve their own skill sets in listening and in helping these children to learn, if we help support and build our faculty, we will continue to raise the profile and the education of our children. There are some children that struggle, and there are a lot of factors in that. Some are home, some are the community that they come from. We need to find ways to help and support those children as well. All of these are factors that go into a lot of the micro programs that Andy spoke to, and I think the school is doing a great job right now in identifying those. We just need to build on those things.
What is your stance on the intense growth of young families in Lake Bluff with the housing boom? How do you suggest our school accommodate quickly growing grade sizes while prioritizing small class sizes that make our schools exceptional?
Yeah, this is one of the complicated things about being on school board, right? Ensuring that we have the resources to provide the education that we all expect. The good news about that, and it's well timed, is that we are about to embark on a strategic planning process that will actually help to answer that very question. It would be wrong of me to stand up here and say I have all those answers, because we don't. We do have expert school administrators who have ideas on that already. I will say the housing boom is really good for all of us for a lot of reasons, and it will be our job on the board, in line with our administration, to make sure that that we continue to provide that elite education, keeping the class sizes where they are. But with choices, there comes opportunity cost, right? So part of the strategic planning process, the whole community will be invited in that. It'll start in the first weeks of 2023. We hope that you can help us answer those questions. And that's how we operate as a board, is really listening to our community and helping you be part of the solution. People will support what they help to create, and we're really excited about having your involvement in that to answer that very question.
Thanks, Andy. Well, I get it. Lake Bluff is a great place to live and raise your children. So it's exciting that so many other families want to do that as well. And yes, it does provide some challenges. The strategic plan will help figure out what the priorities are for the school users, for the parents who have their children in schools. I was part of the strategic planning process last time when we did it 5 years ago as a community member. I was not on the board at that time. And really through that process, we found out what the priorities were. At that time, small class sizes was definitely a priority. I expect it still will be again, but we'll have to listen, we'll have to hear what people want, and then we'll have to figure out how to make that work.
Yes, people move to Lake Bluff for the schools and for the walkability and the small schools and all that. Get on your bike to school. I'll meet you at school. I'll pick you up from school. That's the reason why people want to move to Lake Bluff. I look forward to I was a part of the strategic plan too back in 2018, and I look forward to working with the board, the administration, on the new strategic plan and how we're going to, just lift up these kids.
Obviously, the school district doesn't necessarily know as yet how it's going to address increased number of students in our schools. We have limited space in classrooms. We have limited faculty right now based on those growing numbers. But we have a lot of great resources in Lake Bluff. And we have other options as well. We need to explore technology, and our kids are very well versed in technology, probably more than a lot of us are. We can, through this strategic planning process, access the resources that are available in the community to help us address this, because just increasing faculty, just increasing the number of buildings will not address the learning experience and making sure that it is the best that it can be for all of our kids. So I encourage as many people as possible to be part of that strategic planning process, because again, the resources are bountiful here in Lake Bluff: technology, people, etc.
I think it's great that we have a lot of young families moving here. I love this town, and I can see why they are moving here. I think there are a lot of options. I think we as a community need to come together and decide what the best options are. I grew up mostly in the New Trier School District, and the size of the classes expanded and contracted. So there were times where we had to open up more schools. We have a school in Shields. We have extra buildings if we have to hire more teachers. I think class size is very important. I love how small the class sizes are here. But I think we have the resources to do what needs to be done. We just need to come together as a community and have discussions on what is best for the majority here.
Okay. How does the Board of Education address the effects of COVID on test scores?
I think we've already addressed this a little bit. But we knew coming out of the pandemic that there was going to be learning loss that we had to make up, right? And so we are supporting our children, or I should say the administration is supporting the children through making up these gaps in learning, through offering social, emotional, wellness learning, right? Because it's all connected, right? We need to have happy, fun, engaged kids so that they can learn and feel safe at school. And when they then feel all of that, they learn better. We are teaching them the lessons, or the school is teaching them the lessons that they need to make up. And once they are doing that, the test scores will raise. But it's all that whole cycle of socially, emotionally well, with the students and the teachers so that the learning continues, so that they close the gap?
You know, I'm not currently on the board. I'd have to differ. Well, Anne's answer was exactly right. It's one big, you know, connected circle. How the kids feel is how they perform, how they act in school, how their teachers feel. It's one big circle. And if ever, you know, we're back to a normal year. Like, this is our first normal year. We're not on a shortened schedule. The kids are not in masks. And I think just from here, it's going to go and just get better and better. And the board did a great job with COVID. Remember, we were in the fall of 2020, Lake Bluff 65 was one of a few schools that was open for in-person learning. And I applaud our board and our administration for making the best decision, which was our children's emotional and learning.
I also have obviously not been on the board, and I would support what Lane said in that our current board certainly has made excellent decisions to bring our children from the COVID experience to the better learning experience that we're seeing today. If you attend any of the events at the school, inside or outside the school, you see really happy children. They play well together, they listen to each other, they take care of each other, and this coupled with the staff and faculty that we have at the school will continue to help these kids to grow together, to learn to grow, learn together, and that will bring their scores up. If they're happy and safe, which they are, they will have the opportunity to continue to learn and grow. Without those things, they can't. They'll either be too afraid.
Time.
I would agree. I think that the board did an amazing job handling all the things that you had to deal with, and you were wonderful. And I think that I have absolute faith in the board to address the effects of COVID on the test scores, because, you know, there was a loss of learning. And I have faith in our teachers, in our administrators, and the board to work to close the gaps and increase the test scores.
I agree. Our board did a great job. So one thing that I will say, and I had an opportunity, having been on the board now 4 years, to go through the superintendent hiring process. And we ended up with Dr. Lisa Leali, who was standing in the back over there. And if you haven't got to know Dr. Leali, I would suggest you do that, no matter if you have kids in the school district or not. The great thing about being on the board is that we hire experts who this is their wheelhouse, right? I have a wheelhouse, we all have a wheelhouse. We have expert administrators who have a wheelhouse, and this is hers. Talk to her about this and she'll light up, right? So everything everybody said is right. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If students are okay, they're better to learn. If they feel safe, they're more likely to learn. If they're emotionally healthy, they're going to be better learners, right? What I will say, though, practically, is that review of all curricular areas has begun, and we have the right people to do it. There are other people in that process who wouldn't have been the right people. We landed the right one. So you can be confident about that.
Okay. In the interest of it being nearly 8:30 and we still have to get to the vote and sign petitions, I want to thank all the candidates on the school board for enlightening us as to the issues, the challenges, and your vision for how to move forward. So thank you.